Hi everyone, in this video we're looking at calculating volume. So you're going to calculate the volume of basic prisms. To do that we're going to use formulas. We're going to see where they come from and also substituting those your values into the formulas correctly so that you can work out the volume for your shape. So first of all, volume is the amount of space occupied by a 3D object. Now, if you think about it, it's a 3D object, so it's got length, depth, and height, or width, depending on who you are, what you're going to say. So if it's got 3 dimensions, it's going to have its length, its width, its height, therefore it's going to be centimeters cubed. So if you kind of start to see a pattern here, perimeter, it's like a singular line because you're just walking in one direction, you've got one dimension, it's just length. Then when you do area, you've got 2 dimensions, length times width, because you're trying to find the area. And then with volume, you're looking for length, width, and depth. So you're actually looking for 3 dimensions. Yep. And so that is what we are looking at. A centimeter cubed, or a centimeter to the power of 3, is 1 centimeter by 1 centimeter by 1 centimeter. So it's got that much. Fun fact, that's 1 milliliter of water, but we won't talk so much about capacity today. Prism, so like my little happy cat here, stuck in a box. That's how I kind of remember volume. So if you can fit something in it, it's got volume. So a prism is a 3D shape with uniform cross-section. As another student said to me once, it's like if you took a flat surface and you pushed like some solid stuff through it, you would get like a uniform kind of tube of this 2D shape. That's what a prism is essentially. So think of it if you had like a triangle shaped extruder, and as you pushed the solid product through it, it would shape up to be a uniform triangle. I like to think of it as like those hard-boiled sweets as they cut them up. So they're all uniform in that type of aspect, or thinking of it like those like nice ice cream log cakes, and no matter where you cut it, everyone gets like the same kind of cross-section of the cake, or a loaf of bread if you just want to go pretty standard. Anyway, so there's some different based prisms. So you can see there, that's the cross-section, and if you cut this one, it's not going to come up, is it? Nope, if you cut this one, it's going to be all along there. And they're all going to be like slices of hexagons. And so, for example, if we uniformed, like if we cut them all like this, they would all be pentagonal slices. So that's what we mean by a prism. So pause the video and I would like you to decide which one of these 3D shapes is a type of prism, and don't forget to write your answer in your exercise book. Alright, so now that you have paused, done that, and you're back into the video, we're going to look at actually calculating the volume. So for any prism, it's always going to be volume equals area times height, so A height. Because remember, we're saying that any prism has a uniform cross-section, so the area of this piece of this prism is this area here. And think of it as if we were like going to stack up lots of sheets of pentagonal paper, and we do that over and over and over and over again. You start to get depth, don't you? Because if you think about it, like you have one sheet of paper, it's not very thick, but if you have a book of them, you get a novel, or it's quite thick. So that's essentially what volume is. So the more and more you have, the more volume you have, like all the thicker or the deeper the shape. So how you can get around that is just work out the area for your shape. Now, be mindful that unless the 3 shapes that you have done so far in year 7 is area equals length times width for a rectangle or a square. This isn't being a bit sensitive today. You've done a triangle, so area equals base height divided by 2. And you've also done a parallelogram. Sorry, make sure that this is your base, this is your height. You divide by that 2, and then your parallelogram is base times height. and here is my parallelogram, and that is my height, and this is my base. So you've done those 3 formulas. So if you aren't given one of these shapes as your prism base, then you'll be given the area of one of these shapes. So what you need to do is work out select the appropriate units, substitute, and write your answer in the correct unit. So what we're going to do is we're going to calculate the volume of these prisms. So here we go, we can see here with rectangular prisms, they're pretty easy because they have, like, regardless of which way you look, they've got 3 aspects that can make them uniform cross sections. So that's why we kind of use the area equals length times width times height. So you might have heard someone say that already area. What am I doing? It's meant to be volume. So here we go, volume equals area times height. Our area is length and width, so that's where you might see length, width, height. When someone says the volume of a rectangular prism is length times width times height, that's what they're referring to. L times W is your rectangle times the height. Hopefully we can make that connection between A equaling length and W, and then you're substituting essentially that A into volume equals. Okay, so volume equals, now substituting these values, multiplication is commutative, so it does not matter which way you put them. V equals 3 times 4, which is 12 times 3, 36 centimeters, checking my units, cubed. This one here, volume equals, now you could do this separately if you wanted to do like A equals base height divided by 2, and then do those individually. So, what is it? 6.7 7 times 6.1 divided by 2, and you could do that and then substitute that in, or you can just go base height divided by 2 times height, and that would be you'll see here that it's 7 because this and this are equilateral, so this has to be 7 meters. So base is 7 times 6.1 divided by 2, and then multiply that by the 8. You'll notice that there's 2 h's here, but remember that this is the h from the area of this triangle, and that this h is for the depth of your shape, or the height of this triangular prism. I'm going to get my calculator out, and that is going to be 7 times 6.1 times 0.5. You'll see that I've just used that. I'm just making my life a little bit easier as opposed to like reading divide 2, then times it by 8. So there's that. Times that by 8 equals 170.8. 170.8 meters cubed. So that is how I get around doing that one. Now, here we go. So remember how I told you that sometimes when you get a prism, the shape will give you the area, and all you have to do is substitute that in to your equation. So volume equals A times H. Volume equals, now A is 120 centimeters squared, times the height of your cylinder, 11. V equals 132. I think I've got enough zeros there. We'll double check. Yes, I certainly do, and that is going to be centimeters cubed. So again, later on you might know, be able to work out the area of the circle without having it given to you, but until then that'll be given, and you just have to make sure that you multiply that the area by its height. It wouldn't even matter if it was this kind of shape, and if that was 120 centimeters, so A equals 120 centimeters squared, and this was 11 centimeters, you would still do the exact same thing if it was a hexagon, pentagonal, or even if it was like some funky do shape like this, you could still, as long as A equals 120 centimeters squared, And if this was your prism, you know, it's still uniform cross section the whole way, and this was 11 centimeters, that would still have that same volume here. It's just using the formula V equals A times H. Okay, so what you're going to do now is you're going to have a practice of using the prism formula. So volume equals length times width, for rectangular prisms. You can use A times H, that's fine. And then we're going to have a go at doing just one of your irregular prism kind of bases and then calculating the volume for that shape. All right, don't forget to pause, show your working out, and label your questions appropriately. Thanks. Don't forget to stay awesome. Bye.